Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. My name is Tessa Archibald. I manage the Homes for Horses Coalition, and I'm an equine policy associate for the Animal Welfare Institute. Just a couple things to keep in mind as we get started. Please stay on mute just so we can hear our speaker clearly. And this will be recorded, so if you need to hop off, no worries. We're going to save our questions probably till the end, but if you want to put them in the chat so that you don't forget them, that would be great. Many of you joining today are members of Homes for Horses. I recognize many names out there, but for those of you who aren't, I can share a short introduction. The Homes for Horses Coalition has been active since 2007, when it started as a unique coalition to help horse rescues and ultimately help equines by ending horse slaughter. Today, Homes for Horses is led by the Animal Welfare Institute and American Wild Horse Conservation and has over 500 members who are equine rescue directors, equine professionals, and equine advocates. HHC is dedicated to providing spaces for collaboration, connection, and continued learning like this within the equine rescue world, as well as furthering advocacy. On that note, just a super quick announcement. Our 2026 conference has been booked in Denver for October 16 to 18 next year, about a year from now, so save the date. At our last conference, we had a fabulous fundraising talk by our guest today, Sandy Reese. Sandy is the founder of Fundraising TV and the CEO at Get Fully Funded, where she shows passionate nonprofit leaders how to fully fund their vision so they can spend their time saving lives instead of worrying about money. That would be ideal. She has helped dozens of small animal welfare nonprofits go from nickel and dime fundraising to adding six figures to their bottom line. As a trainer, she shows her students how to find ideal donors, connect with them through authentic messaging, and build relationships that stand the test of time so that fundraising becomes easy and predictable. Also would be ideal. Sandy has served as a volunteer and board member for a variety of animal rescue nonprofits, including the Animal Legal Defense Fund and Horse Haven of Tennessee. Sandy is actually based in Tennessee, and you can find out more about her fundraising system at Get Fully Funded. And you can also find out more when she takes it away right now.
Awesome. Thank you, Tessa. Hey, everybody. I am so excited to be here. I love talking about fundraising. I love helping people like you find easier ways to raise money. And today we're talking specifically about Giving Tuesday. I am a horse gal, although I just moved off my farm about a year ago, so I don't have horses in my backyard anymore. I miss them. Um, but just so you know, I had horses for a while and I've worked for many, many years as a board member and volunteer for Horse Haven. So I'm very familiar with the challenges of horse care. And I laugh at our animal shelter groups when they talk about hoarding cases with, a bunch of Yorkies. And I'm like, try a hoarding case with horses when they call and say, we have 90 animals that need to come off this property. Been there, done that. Not so much fun. All right. So I just want you to know that I get it. I know where you are. I know that many of you are wearing a lot of hats, that you are the one person in your organization that takes care of, you may be taking care of animals or at least overseeing it. You're probably in and out of the barn during the day, and you're responsible for fundraising and about 100 other things. So what I thought we'd talk about today, and let me go ahead and share my screen so we'll make sure that you can see the slides. We're talking about Giving Tuesday, and what I want to share with you is what I consider hacks. So these are some pretty simple things that everybody can do that will help you reach your goal every time. I love predictability in fundraising. I love it when you know that something's going to work. I bet that a lot of you try things hoping that it works, but you don't really know if it's going to or not. I've been there and it sucks, frankly. Let's be honest. Um, Not knowing if something's going to work or not is very stressful, especially when you have vet bills to pay. And as a horse gal, I know that it is not inexpensive when the vet comes out or when the farrier comes out and you have a couple of dozen animals that need a trim. So, we're going to talk about things that you can do, very practical things you can do to help you raise more money on Giving Tuesday. So you were absolutely in the right place. If you need to raise big bucks this year on Giving Tuesday, and maybe you're not sure how to do that, you believe in planning, even if you don't do it, you know it's a good idea, and you want to get yourself ready for success. And maybe you'd like some ninja tips so you can blow past your goals. I love a good ninja tip, and I have a handful for you today. All right, so I spend my days raising money. I have a marketing background and made the transition into fundraising in the late 90s. And since 2005, so 20 years, wow, it'll be 20 years December 1st. Time just flies. That I have been running Get Fully Funded and helping people raise money. This is my favorite part of the year, the holidays. Last year, here's some of the things that I heard from some of our clients and students. Some of my favorites are when people say, "We reached our goal early. What do we do now?" I love that. And when people say, "We've never raised that much before during the holidays." I love that. And that's what I want for you. So, my intention today is to share with you some ideas that you can use immediately. Some of it you may say, yeah, I know that. But I want you to go into this with a beginner mindset. If you already knew it and you knew it fully, you'd be implementing fully and you'd be getting the results that you're looking for. But since you're here, I'm thinking that you're probably not quite getting the results that you want, probably not quite raising the money that you want. So let's move in. So seriously, here's some screenshots of some of the things that people have said in the past. Becky Roy is the executive director and founder at Draft Gratitude, and I'm going to show you some samples of some stuff that she's done in the past. She's gotten really, really good at Giving Tuesday, and I want to show you some of her campaigns. So here we go. You're all probably all familiar with Giving Tuesday. It is the Tuesday after Thanksgiving here in the US. It is meant to kick off the holiday giving season, and it's become quite a big deal. I have a fair number of colleagues who say, oh, it's like nonprofit Hunger Games. I think that's kind of funny. A lot of people poo-poo Giving Tuesday. Oh, it's too competitive. You can't raise any money. I think those are the people that have no plan and they go into it thinking, well, I'm just going to post a couple of things and we'll raise some money. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work at all. So Giving Tuesday is best with a plan. Number one, you can't wing this. You can't wait till the last minute and say, oh, well, I'll just post a few pictures of the horses and we'll raise money. Well, you might raise a little bit, but you're not going to raise the kind of money that you want. So you have to have a plan. You want to pick a right size solvable problem for Giving Tuesday. Well, what's a right size solvable problem? Well, it could be a number of things. Some of the horse rescues that I've worked with have had very successful hay campaigns where they've raised money to pay for hay for through the winter or the next 6 months. I've done campaigns for fencing, for equipment around the farm, for farrier and vet bills and all the stuff that you need money to pay for anyway. I've done all of those. So a solvable problem is what people like to give money to. If you show up on Giving Tuesday or any time of the year and you say, we need to raise $10,000, please give, people are not going to be inspired by that and they're not going to give. They want to know what their money is going to, which means if you choose something like a hay campaign, you are now obligated to spend the money that you raise on hay. Or if you're, gosh, Becky raised money for round bale, those little huts that you can put your round bales in and it keeps them dry. I forget what those are called. Anyway, yeah, we raised money for a couple of those one year. I think people just really like to know where their money is going, especially on Giving Tuesday. And that's not a problem because there are things that you need money for right now that you can run as a campaign for Giving Tuesday, like hay, like feed, like farrier, like all the stuff that you need. Matching gifts help you raise more money. They help you hit your goal. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And helpers can be super helpful. I'm going to talk about this a little today too. What we're talking about is finding a few board members, a few volunteers, whoever you can find that will help you spread the word about your campaign. Now, I know when I say, let's get your board on board, probably almost everybody just rolled their eyes. We all have issues with our boards, don't we? Yeah, that's a whole nother topic that we could talk about is how do you fix the issues on your board. But for right now, I just want you to think about if you have a couple of people on your board who would be helpful as an ambassador for Giving Tuesday. More about that in just a sec. So this is the kind of stuff you want to be thinking about ahead of Giving Tuesday. For all of our private clients, we are knee deep into Giving Tuesday planning right now because the truth is we're about 5 or 6 weeks away. It's not very far. Um, and we need to get our ducks in a row now so that we're not scrambling at the last minute. Nobody does their best work at the last minute. And the truth is, you need to start teasing your Giving Tuesday campaign 2 weeks out, which is November 18th. Write that down. That is the day that you start posting and emailing your folks about what you're raising money for on Giving Tuesday, November 18th. That's when this all starts. So now if you think about, ooh, Giving Tuesday starts November 18th, now you've only got about 3 weeks to get your ducks in a row. I guess maybe 4. So it's not very long, not long at all. All right. Now, before we talk more about Giving Tuesday, I want to talk about chocolate cake. Right? I love chocolate cake. I have every time I look at this picture, I want that cake right there. But there's a problem. I want that cake, but I can't have that cake right now. You know why? I don't have any cake in my house. I've got to I've got to take some action. I've got to decide what I'm going to do about that. So there are things that have to happen between my desire to have the cake and my ability to actually eat the cake. That makes sense, right? So just because I have the desire for it doesn't mean that chocolate cake is going to magically fall from the sky and now I get to eat it. All right, so before I can eat that cake, there's some things that have to happen. I've got to either choose a recipe or decide that I'm going to make this from a box. Then I have to decide when do I want to do this because I'm going to probably have to run to the store and get a few things. And then when I get back, I can get started and mix everything up and put it in the oven, bake it, let it cool, ice it. Now I can grab a fork and I can enjoy that cake. That is some planning in there. Does that make sense? There's some planning, there's some action, there's some effort that I have to exert. And guess what? Your Giving Tuesday campaign is the exact same thing. We got to think about it. We got to figure out the details. We're going to have to make a plan. We're going to have to exert some effort to put a couple of things together. Now, the nice thing about what I'm going to show you about successful Giving Tuesday campaigns is that this actually applies to any fundraising campaign you want to use. Anytime you want to raise money, you want to think about this ahead of time. Don't just knee jerk. And I know that's easy to do to say, oh my gosh, we had a horse go down this morning. That's everybody's worst nightmare, right? You don't want to look out and see one down somewhere. You want everybody to be healthy. So you want to plan things ahead of time as much as you can. All right, so there are 5 steps, and you can write these down as we go today. 5 steps for success with Giving Tuesday. The very first one is we're going back to that solvable problem, and that is having a specific funding need and goal. Don't try to do an arbitrary amount to raise money. So no, hey, we're doing this campaign to raise $25,000 so we can meet our budget for the rest of the year. Frankly, nobody cares about your budget for the rest of the year but you and your board. Your donors don't care. Your donors want to know, what are you doing to make a difference? What are you doing with the horses in your care? What do you need for that? So what you see on screen is an example of, this was a hay and feed campaign that Becky from Draft Gratitude ran. And you're going to see several things as I show examples today. And what you're going to see is images, headlines, specific language. This one, trying to remember what tool she used for this. Might have been GiveGab. What was really great about this was it allowed her to use photos, and we had the little thermometer, and you can see that the goal was $2,781 and she raised $72.01. So she raised 259% of her goal. How did she do that? Well, she followed a lot of what I'm going to show you today, And before Giving Tuesday, she was warming people up. So staying in touch with donors, letting them know what's going on. If you have not been doing that this year, start today or tomorrow. It's going to be just fine for you to send out an email that just says, hey, wanted to give you a quick update. Here's what's going on with the horses. Bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, show a picture. That's it. You don't, it doesn't have to be long. It just needs to be sincere. When donors feel like they're part of your team, they feel valued, they feel like they're needed, they are going to give on Giving Tuesday. So the good news is you have time between now and November 18th to do what we call a warm touch, which is basically a good donor communication that's short and hits them right in the feels. So it makes them feel really good. All right, so specific funding need and goal. That's the first thing you want to figure out. And again, it could be a hay campaign like Becky does. It could be a piece of equipment. Just think about what you need. I'm going to show you some more examples as we go, and hopefully that'll help get your creative juices flowing. Okay, the second thing that you need for success on Giving Tuesday is a graphic or an image that you can use cross-platform. This is going to tie your campaign together. So whether somebody sees an email from you or a social media post or something on your website, the repetition starts to really inspire and motivate them to give. So the repetition of the image and the message is going to help you. This one is from Ronchar Ranch Draft Horse Rescue. They're outside Buffalo, New York. And she wanted to raise money for emergency situations. So she came up with this image, and you can see the tagline, "In an emergency, help him survive." And she had some really good stories. And basically, here's how the money is going to help us respond immediately. Because you and I all know that when a horse goes down, you have to move now, and you have to move fast. They get real sick real fast, and there's not time to do much of anything else. Now, images can be a lot of different things, and if you are like me and not a graphic designer, Canva is your best friend. Canva is awesome. I've got a whole bunch of clients, not just in the animal welfare world, but children's advocacy centers and food pantries and all of that. And I saw some beautifully done images and headlines last year, and it was every single person was doing it in Canva. Canva has templates you can use. And again, I'm going to show you a lot of examples today that hopefully get all your juices flowing. But you need this image and headline because you're going to use it in multiple places. It sort of summarizes your campaign and helps people immediately get what's going on with your campaign. So if they don't read the whole email, they can see that image and go, okay, got it. Understand now what you're trying to do. Here's another one. This is another one from Draft Gratitude. And this particular year, they built a track around the edge, like outside of all their paddock fencing, to keep the horses healthy. And so you can see that she's got an image of these horses moving, which goes right in line with this idea of wellness track. And then she used what we call the 3-bubble image. Now, the 3-bubble image provides donors with choices of giving. So it's not a matter of them looking at this saying, am I going to give or not? Now, all of a sudden, they're looking at, oh, I could do $19 to help them build stronger muscles, or 199 flexible joints, 597 health and wellness overall. The 3 bubbles give donors an idea of how their money is going to be used, and it gets them shopping, frankly, which is a good thing. That particular campaign, you can see she had matching gifts up to $5,000, and she has gone over goal with her Giving Tuesday campaigns for like the last 7 or 8 years, I bet. So she uses this same strategies every year. She's obviously not raising money for a wellness track every year, but she's consistently hitting her goal and raising more and more every year, which is awesome. That's what I want for everybody. I want you to be able to hit that goal every year, because the really fun thing about it, and Becky is a great example of this. So Becky started putting into motion the things that I'm teaching you today. And she hit her goal that year. And then the next year, she raised the goal a little bit, refined what she was doing. She was getting better at her messaging, better at the images, and went like about 25% over goal that year. And then the next year, refined it, got better at it, went over goal that year. So she's just been able to keep raising the bar and raising the bar and raising the bar. And now it's pretty common for her to raise about $20,000 on Giving Tuesday. And that's just part of her year end. Last year, because she was doing such a good job of telling the story, remember I told you you gotta communicate with donors. You gotta do the warm touches. You even in a short email, you want to tell them what's going on and give them updates on your horses. People, especially who are not horse people, are going to lean in because they're just fascinated with horses and they want to know like what the happy ending is. Well, last year Becky got this donation out of the blue. It came through a donor advised fund for $100,000 from a donor that she still does not know who it is. It came anonymously through this DAF. And she called me and she said, "You're not going to believe what just happened." And then she explained it and she goes, "I have no idea. How do I thank these people?" Obviously, it was somebody who's been reading her email because they referenced a specific story that she had been sharing in one of her newsletters. Well, the more you communicate with your donors, the more likely that kind of stuff can happen. That was game changing for her organization. And so now we're on pins and needles to see, are you going to get that donation again this year? Like what's going to happen? You guys can do this too. You can do this too. It's all about seeing your donors as valued partners, not just checkbooks. They are not there just to fund your organization. Let them be a part of what's going on. Communicate with them like you would a friend, and you'll see the magic happen. Okay, step number 3 in these 5 steps for success is to recruit a team of ambassadors to help you promote the goal. Now, the nice thing about ambassadors on Giving Tuesday is they don't have to do a whole lot. What you need them to do is a handful of things. You want them to forward the emails that you send out to a couple of friends. Like literally, if they can forward that email to 3 friends, that's great. Why do you want them to do that? Well, because that gets your message in front of new people. So every ambassador you have that forwards to 3 friends, if you had 10 ambassadors, you're getting in front of 30 new people that way, which is pretty cool. Now your donor base is growing, and this is a good thing. You want them to also share your social media posts. So they need to be watching for what you post on Giving Tuesday and sharing that. If they add a note to it about why your organization matters to them, even better. Even better. What that's doing is providing what's called social proof. Social proof is basically when somebody says to other people, "Here's why I believe in this organization." So it's an endorsement or a testimonial, if you will. So if your ambassador is sharing your post, and they don't have to share every one, if they share one during the day on Giving Tuesday, that will help because the chances of somebody who is their friend on social media seeing that and giving go up significantly. So now you've got another opportunity to get new donors in, new dollars in, plus your ambassadors are going to feel really good because they're helping. So who makes a good ambassador? Well, it could be a board member or not. It could be volunteers. It could be friends. It could be donors that you have right now. It could be your farrier or your vet. Basically, anybody who's willing to share is going to make a good ambassador. The number one key that makes it work is that willingness. People on your board who are like, "Oh, I'll do it," but then they don't actually do it, that's not helpful. We don't want to twist arms ever to get somebody to say yes to being an ambassador. So I bet already you've got names that are popping in your mind of people that you're like, "Oh, I bet they would do this. I bet they would do this." When I was with Horsehaven, we had about 110 volunteers who came out at least once a week to take care of horses. They were either on a morning shift or an afternoon shift every day. So that was pretty easy to get 10 or 15 ambassadors out of that group, those people are the ones who were there every day, no matter the weather. They were the ones who provided the hands-on care. They knew how important it was to provide good quality hay and the right feed and all the things. And they were more than happy to share. What I like about the work of an ambassador is it's very low risk. We're not asking people to go ask their friends for money. We're just asking them to share and maybe to share why this organization matters to them. So the chances of people saying yes are pretty high. So how many ambassadors should you have? As many as you can get. I want you to think about how many you think you can get. If you think 3 is going to be a struggle, go for 3. Shoot for 1. If you can get 10 or 15, you think you can easily get 10 or 15 people to say yes, go for 15. Or stretch for 20 and see what happens. Again, it's a low intensity task. It's a low time commitment. That's usually the thing that makes it or breaks it for a lot of people. You're asking them to do a couple of things on or before Giving Tuesday. So it's not a heavy lift at all, but it will be very helpful for you in spreading the word about your campaign, helping to raise a little more money and helping to bring new donors in. Okay, so that's all about ambassadors. Matching money. Yay, let's talk about matching money. Matching gifts are when a donor or a pool of donors give you an amount of money that you can then turn around to the rest of your donors and say, an anonymous donor or Mrs. Reese has provided $5,000. Your donation is going to be matched dollar for dollar toward this campaign. Statistically, across the industry of nonprofits, we can see that campaigns with matching money always raise more money. The end. Okay, so let's talk about this for just a sec, because I bet some of you are thinking we don't have any wealthy donors. That's okay. Or if you do, that's great. What you need to do is think about first, how much do you want in matching money? I like to have about half the campaign goal. So if my goal, if I'm going to do a hay campaign, and let's say I need $7,500 to cover the cost of hay for the next 6 months, that's going to get me through the winter. Okay, great, 7,500. I'm going to need about $3,800 in matching in order to hit that. Now, if I have done Giving Tuesday before, and I know that my donors will probably give in the $3,000 range, then I need to go get that $3,800, and I'm in pretty good position to hit that goal. Hopefully you followed that math. I should have warned you. There's math involved in all this. Now, here's the flip side of that. If you haven't done Giving Tuesday before, or if the most that you've raised is like $1,000, $1,500, I don't know that I would go after a $7,500 goal. I'm not sure that that's right-sized. A right-sized goal is going to be one that you can hit. You may have to work for it a little bit, but it's not going to be a ridiculous stretch. So if the most you've raised is 1,000 or 1,500, I think a stretch would be 2,500 and get half of that in matching, or go for 3,000, get half of it in matching. You don't want to set yourself up to fail with this. There is a very weird piece of psychology at play here. Let me ask you this. How many of you like to be on the winning team? Right? I have a friend who is a diehard Ravens fan. She lives outside Baltimore, and so she's a Ravens fan. She's an Orioles fan. And man, she is all about the game. She gets so mad when, the coach is doing a bad job and the team's losing and all that. She wants to be part of the winning team. She wants to be there cheering them on. Well, we're all that way. We all want to be part of a winning team. When donors really care about your organization and they're following your campaign on Giving Tuesday, what they want to see at the end of the day is the hooray, we did it message. They want to see that post that says, hooray, you guys are the best donors on the planet. We did it. We're all set for hay for the winter. Thank you so much. Because if they don't see that, then they think, did I just waste my donation today? Did I give to the wrong organization? They want to give to a winning team. So there's again this bit of psychology here that you have to take into consideration as you're planning. So as you're picking your solvable problem, you're thinking about the right size goal. You have to start putting some numbers on that before you start working on matching gifts so that you know how much you need to get in matching. Is that making sense? All right, Tessa's shaking her head. All righty. Now, if you've got questions about this, drop them in the chat, and we are going to have some time at the end to talk about all the things. Just trust me that matching money is important. Now, if you have, let's say you need to get $1,500 in matching, and you have a donor that you can approach because they typically give that much, great. Call them up, have a chat with them, tell them, hey, we're trying to raise money on Giving Tuesday for whatever the thing is. I'm wondering if you'd be willing to give us a donation that we can use as a matching gift, because we know that it'll help other people. It'll encourage other people to give. So you want to do that now. You want to be having that conversation now with a donor. All right. If you have nobody that gives at that level, you can put together a pool of money. So I was helping somebody, this was years ago, it was a dog rescue in Minnesota. They were going after a big goal. Their goal was about $20,000. They'd never done that much before. They had done in the 10 to 12 range before. I said, okay, let's see if we can get 10,000 in matching money, and I think we can hit the $20,000 goal. Because your donors have shown us that just in general, they'll give. Okay, she said, well, I don't have anybody that can give $10,000. I said, okay, do you have anybody that could give 5,000? She said, no. 2,500? And she said, no. I said, all right, what do you have? She goes, well, I have all these people who typically give $1,000. I said, all right, let's do this. So here's what we did. I helped her put a script together, and she called 10 people and asked them each for $1,000. Now, what do you think happened? Did all of them say yes? No. 7 of them said yes. And then an 8th person said, well, I can't do 1,000, but I can give you 500. So she made 10 phone calls and raised 7,500, and it worked. So we put the $7,500 of matching money in that campaign, in that appeal, and we raised about $24,000 total, which was really, really awesome. She was over the moon thrilled. The matching money works, and it is okay to have a pool of matching money. So if you don't have any big donors, it's okay. Get what you can. Even $500 in matching will help. It does help. All right. By the way, if you're somebody who thinks, well, I don't really have any rich donors, I get that. Go back and look at your donors and look at their giving history. Look for people who have given $500 cumulatively. So maybe they haven't written a check for 500, but they've given $500 gifts over the last year. That's still $500. And a lot of times when you ask somebody specifically to give, they will step up and give more than they would if they're just clicking a button and hitting a donate page. So having that conversation with them will encourage them to give more. And listen, let me tell you, if you're feeling nervous about that, I get it. I was terrified the first time that I had a conversation with a donor. I was terrified the second and third time that I had a conversation with a donor. It got easier the more I did it. And what I had to focus on was the people that we were helping. The more you do this, the easier it's going to get, just like anything else. All right, 5 steps for success. Here's the 5th one. You want to have a special Giving Tuesday donation page. And here's why. You don't want anybody getting confused, because confusion is an obstacle to giving. All right, so let's say you're doing a hay campaign. You're asking for a specific amount of money for hay bales, whether it's a small bale or round bale, whatever it is. So in your email, you're talking about this campaign, and then people click the donate button and they go to your general donate page, which says nothing about a hay campaign, and then just gives a generic place for people to give. People are going to be confused, and they're going to wonder, well, wait a minute, over here you were talking about hay campaign, and then over here there's nothing about Hey Campaign. So they're going to get confused. They're going to backtrack. They may try it again. You may have people that just click away and don't give at all because they're not sure what happened. So you want to create a special donation page. And usually, so you can do this one of two ways. You can either copy your general donation page on your website and make it match your Hey Campaign or whatever you're raising money for on Giving Tuesday. Or you can change your general donate page to your Hey Campaign starting November 18th, and then you change it back on December 3rd. Giving Tuesday is December 2nd this year. So your general donate page reflects that Hey Campaign during those 2 weeks. That's okay too. Either way works. You just want the language to match so that people don't get confused. All right, so here's one. This is from Roan Charm Ranch. This particular year, they needed money for fencing to section off and create a quarantine area. Now, this is the donate page. So at the top, we've got a beautiful picture. There's the little bar that shows what's going on. I meant to write down what tool they were using. It might be GiveButter, it might be Network for Good, can't remember, doesn't matter. So that you see a picture, there's the thermometer, then we've got a little bit of text, and then there's this nice video that shows us the future quarantine area. So if I'm a donor and I'm looking at this, like this affirms what's going on with this campaign, I can watch the video. Then down below were the boxes where I can plug in my donation, put all my information in. And that was a really good donation page. All right, here's one from, this is Draft Gratitude. This looks like a Hey Campaign. Provide hay, warmth, and hope this Giving Tuesday. You can see we've got their image. So this is that image that they used for this particular year. They used it on social media and in email and stuff, and then they used the image again on their donate page. That helped tie everything together and affirm to people they're in the right place. And then down below, you see that there's their bar that shows their progress, and then the story, and they go right into winter doesn't wait, and neither can we. That's strong. The coldest months of the year are just around the corner. Quality hay is the cornerstone, blah, blah, blah. So they get right into the message, the story of this campaign. So they don't say, we're a 501c3. They don't say, we depend on community support. I'm not sure that the word we is even in that first little bit there. It goes right to why this is important for these horses. Hopefully that's making sense to you. Here's a giving page on Facebook. You do want to have donation page on your website so that when you're emailing people, you can send them right there. If you're going to raise money on Facebook, which you can, that's up to you, you want to have a specific fundraiser on Facebook for your campaign. Jessie Miller at Epic Outreach is one of the queens of Facebook fundraising in our world. She's very, very good at it. She hits her goal every single time. That's a pretty powerful picture right there. That's you can see the children, and that's one of her resident donkeys. So just remember that if you want to raise money only on your website, you can do that. What that means is when you post on Facebook, you're going to have to give people the link. It's going to send them off site. Some donors, and I'm one of them, I like to just give on Facebook because it's easy. So you can set up your Facebook fundraiser and your page on your website so you have 2 different places people can give, and that is totally okay to do that. Okay, ninja tricks, who's ready? All right, here we go. At Get Fully Funded, this is the founding principle, and that is when you raise more money, you can change more lives. Your nonprofit does not exist to be mediocre. You are here to make a difference. You work hard for it every day. Focus your campaign on impact. So talk a lot about lives that are changed. Your goal, your internal goal is fine. It is okay. And I do this with clients, like how much do we need to raise? Okay, the internal goal is $5,400, but what does that mean when we translate that to impact? So for the public, for your donors, you want to talk about the number of bales of hay you need to provide, or the number of times your farrier is coming out, or whatever else you're raising money for, you want to always translate it to impact because that's what people will give to, not an arbitrary goal. Okay. So here's this is another example from Epic Outreach where they were really focused on this horse named Benny. And hopefully you can read that. Imagine this: no water, no food, no love. That was the heartbreaking reality for Benny the horse. And then they go right into talking about Benny and what the situation was. And today he enjoys a belly full of hay, the freedom to roam, and special treatments like Reiki sessions, and his favorite peppermint treats. And then cute picture of people there petting him. That's pretty cool. That's what you want to do, is focus on impact, not, hey, we have an arbitrary goal of $10,000, please give. Okay, tip number 2, ask more often than you normally would, both in email and in social posts. So the formula that we follow starts on November 18th. That's 2 weeks ahead, and we do a teaser email. And then the Tuesday before Thanksgiving here in the US, we do another teaser email and a teaser post. You can do more teasers over that weekend. Then on the Monday before Giving Tuesday, you want to do another email teaser. And then on Giving Tuesday itself, at least one email teaser. So that's like 4 emails within 2 weeks. Some people say, oh, that's too much. All of our people will unsubscribe. I get that. Here's the truth about unsubscribes. People who unsubscribe are not going to give anyway. And if they can't handle a couple of extra emails during the holidays, bless and release. Don't try to hang on to every single name on your list. They're not all worth hanging on to. And it's okay. When somebody unsubscribes, they're making space on your list for somebody else to join, somebody else who cares maybe more deeply and is willing to put their money where their heart is. So it's okay. Now, if you start looking at this and you think, Sandy, I just don't know, I think that's too many emails, then here's what I'm going to tell you. Trust your gut. You know your audience, and everybody's list is different. If you think that 2 emails is all you can send, trust your gut. But I'm going to challenge you to send 1 more than you think is okay. So if you think 2 is okay, I'm going to challenge you to send 3. You don't have to do 4. You are the expert on your organization. You can send however many you think that your folks will tolerate. I'm promising you that you will come closer to reaching your goal or blowing past it if you send 1 more email than you're comfortable with. That works for all fundraising campaigns, by the way. And you got to be okay with the unsubscribes. If you get, 0.1% unsubscribes, I'm not worried about that at all. If you send out an extra email and you get a 30% unsubscribe, then yeah, we need to talk about that. That's way too many. Don't sweat the unsubscribes. All right, use a core number. This is a concept that I teach a lot, and it is a representation of what it costs you to deliver a unit of service. So it might be what it costs you to provide 1 day of care for 1 animal. So this image you see on the screen, this is another one from Ronchar Ranch. And you can see that they're using the 3 bubble image, and the top one says $12.39 provides 1 day of care for 1 horse. Great. Now the donor knows exactly what their money is going to be used for. Core number can be a little tricky, but it doesn't have to be. You can estimate the number of days of care that you have provided. Unless you've got really good records, you're going to have to do a little bit of estimation. At Horsehaven, we had some horses that were basically sanctuaried. So they were there 365 days during the year, and others were there maybe a couple of days. If it was a running at large, they're there a couple of days before they might be returned to owner. You might have some that are there 2 or 3 months before they get adopted out. So then you have to start looking at, okay, how many days of care do we think we provided total for a specific time period? I like to use a 12-month period. So you take the total number of days of care for that 12-month period and you divide that with your total expenses. So everything, not just what you fed, not just the farrier, every single dollar that you spent on the organization, and that's going to give you the core number. Okay. Now, the nice thing about core number when you figure it that way is it becomes unrestricted because you've used all of your expenses in calculating it. So that means the money can then be used on whatever it costs to provide that day of care. And then you'll see what happened here in this example is basically it's just multiples. The first one is 1239, the next one is 2478, provides 2 days. So basically 1239 times 2, and then the bottom one is for 1 week. Now, I know that some of you may be thinking, why don't you just round that? Why does it have to be 1239? Why don't you just make it $12? Weird psychology at play here. The 1239 is more believable than $12. Donors, people are going to look at that and go, oh, you know your numbers. You actually crunch the numbers. You know exactly how much that that cost. It's a weird thing, but it works. Now, what I wanted to show you is that particular image they were able to use on, this is in a social post, and they've used it in email and all the different things. And it worked really well. Here's another one showing a core number. This is from Epic Outreach, and their core number is $7. Now, it's actually like $7.21. Some online donation platforms will not allow you to use the cents, and so you have to round it. So you can't put in 721, it has to be 7. And that's what you see here. And this particular Giving Tuesday, they raised $16,000, 16,253 on their $11,000 goal, which was pretty exciting. Okay, now what? Now what? Here's what I recommend that you do. And thank you to those of you who are popping questions in. I'm going to answer those in just a sec. What I recommend you do is go back through your notes from this. We're going to, I'll give Tessa the slides and she'll share those with you with the recording. Go back through your notes and pick out the top 1 or 2 things that really popped for you and work on those for this year. If you think you have bandwidth to do more than 1 or 2, go for it. Don't try to implement everything. It can get a little overwhelming. So that's why I want you to pick 1 or 2 and do those well. Then you can build on it next year. I would recommend that when you pick out your 1 or 2 things from your notes, look at your calendar for tomorrow or next week and block off an hour or 2 to work on it. A lot of times we have good intentions of working on something and then life happens and things get in the way. And I find when I make an appointment with myself to work on something, the chances of me doing that are like 90% greater because I'm going to do it. I've set aside that time for myself. All right, I do want to share with you a resource that we have coming up that if this has been helpful for you today and you want more, if you want to see in more detail about a few things, you want to see some more examples, we have a free mini course coming up. It starts November 3rd. It's called the Giving Tuesday Prep Sprint. And we're going to show you how to build your campaign. So we're going to take all these things that I've shown you today and we'll just go into a little more detail. It's delivered in a series of videos that you can watch when you want to. So they're on demand, and we've got some really good handouts that go with them. And it's free. The link for you to sign up is getfullyfunded.com/homes-for-horses. So this is a little bit of what we're going to talk about. We're going to go more into that solvable problem. We're actually going to call it an irresistible ask. We'll talk a little more about core number and how to craft that ask. I'm going to give you some tips on building donor-friendly giving pages and thank you pages. You're going to see some examples. We're going to give you a little bit more info on finding a matching gift and a little bit more in terms of recruiting ambassadors. So if any of those topics resonated with you today, you want to go jump in on this free mini course. We're also going to give you some templates. I was actually looking at templates yesterday with one of my team members for social media, and trust me, you do not want to miss this. They are some good templates already built out in Canva. So we're going to give you the templates and a set of examples so you can see how the templates were used. And then basically you're going to put your own pictures behind there, like put your logo in, change the font if you want to, and you're good to go. So we're going to save you a ton of time with that. You're going to get a detailed calendar for exactly what you should post and email, and then you're going to see more samples. So um, there's really no reason not to if you want to learn a little bit more about Giving Tuesday. Okay, I'm going to switch over and answer some questions. And thank you for those of you who are dropping those in. All right, Kathleen, great question. Should you try to remove this year's Giving Tuesday donors from repeat reminder emails? Yes. So if you send out the early reminder on the 18th and you have people who give, leave them out of the rest of the Giving Tuesday emails. Absolutely. They already gave. Chances are good they will see things that you're posting on Facebook, but no need to remind them again. All right, Deborah's question. We have noticed that Google has implemented some email blocks and also some emails don't land in the focus box. Yep. Do you have any tricks for making sure emails land? We already use merge tags. Okay. I'll tell you one of the things that we do. So there are actually a couple of things that we do and that we have a lot of clients who do this. One is to keep your email list clean. So you want the highest deliverability rate that you can get, which means if you have a whole bunch of emails in your list that typically bounce, you want to get those out. At least strip out the email so that you're not you're not just throwing these emails at this block over and over and over. You don't want that because what happens is email providers will look at, oh, your list has all these undeliverable emails in it, and your email will then begin to be seen as sketchy, potential scam. So that's the first thing is keep your list clean. What does that look like? Well, for us, we go through and pull out bounces on the regular. So like once a month, I have a team member who does this, and then we have a couple of clients we do this for. Once a month, we are pulling out the bounces. We are checking for duplicates and merging records together. Sometimes we go through and we will attempt re-engagement. So if you've got people on your list who have not opened an email in more than about 90 days, they're telling you with their behavior, they're no longer engaged. So what you can do is put together a re-engagement campaign where you send those people a couple of emails and say, hey, if you still want to hear from us, you need to click this button now. And that can help with the deliverability. Different tools have different ways of doing that. So you may want to look and see what your specific email provider what it will do. Typically, the cleaner your email, the more likely they will actually go into the place where you want. And one other thing, Deborah, that you can do, it's kind of a pain, but a double opt-in, a double opt-in can help make sure that people actually have said, yes, I want to receive emails from your organization. So what that means is, let's say somebody goes on your website and they opt in to receive your newsletter. They're going to get an email from you that says, did you really mean to sign up? Click here if you did. And they have to click that button, and that confirms to your email provider that yes, they really meant to do that. That's called a double opt-in because they have to enter their email and click the info, and then they have to confirm it in the automatic email that you send them. So that can also make sure that your deliverability rate is as high as it can be. All right, and that's about the edge of what I know about getting things in the right box. All right, Elizabeth, how do you expand your reach? Our biggest struggle is being located in a town of 300 people max. Our fundraising caps out once every 3 months at $400. Okie doke. Definitely be thinking bigger, Elizabeth. And this is where, the technology that we have today is so awesome because we can reach people no matter where they are. Becky at Draft Gratitude, she's located in New Hampshire. One of her biggest donors is in Seattle. How did that happen? We have no idea. That woman somehow found her on Facebook, and Becky does a really good job of sharing stories and video and photos on Facebook. And the more you get ambassadors to share stuff, the more people who are going to find you and they're going to show up, and all of a sudden you're going to get donations from Seattle and you have no idea how you did that. So it's really a matter of consistently showing up online and in email with stories that are worth sharing. That's probably the most important piece of it. I remember Becky called me years ago. Gosh, it's probably been 10 years that we've been working together. And she was funding her organization herself out of her own pocket. She didn't want to do that anymore. So we got started working on her donor base and communications and all that. And I had her sharing more on Facebook, and it took 3 months, 4 months before the nonprofit was paying for itself. We focused heavily on storytelling, and I had her start to do video. I said, grab your smartphone and do video. She said, well, I don't want to be on video. I said, that's fine. I want you to stand at the door to the barn. Is her situation is the whole place is fenced in, and then she has animals in different paddocks. So she'll go over and open the gate to a paddock and then walk back, and the horses just plod in and they go right to their stalls to eat dinner. Okay, I said, here's what I want you to do. After you open the paddock, go back and stand in the doorway in the barn and film the horses coming in. She said, people want to see that. I said, trust me, yes. You've got people on your list who are not horse people, and they're going to be fascinated by that. So she did. And that first video that she posted, she got 600 views on, and she was thrilled. And then it took off from there. She videos all kinds of things. She'll video the farrier working on a foot. She'll get a new horse in and talk about the horse and what the story is and all that. And that stuff becomes very shareable. And that's how you reach out beyond your tiny little town. Becky's in Winchester, New Hampshire, and it is also a very small town. But she's got donors all over the country, and you can do that too, Elizabeth. And anybody else who's in that situation where you think, wait, I want to get people in different places. Yeah, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. Yeah. It's just going into it knowing that you're casting a big net, you're reaching a broad audience. And I can tell you story after story of organizations who have done that, and it's worked really well. All right, we are just about at time here, Tessa.
Yes, and thank you so much for all of those tips. That was absolutely fabulous. And I really appreciated like the confidence building too. It can definitely be intimidating to reach out to people, to ask for money, to like seek that engagement. And sometimes I feel like I'm being annoying, but like people really do want to engage. They want to care for your horses. They want to help your organization. And so I really appreciate you just, boosting all of us up a little bit on that. So thank you so much. And thank you everybody for attending. I hope this was helpful. And I can't wait to see all of your Facebook posts and your emails with your Giving Tuesday campaigns. I better get some reminder emails, some teaser emails from everybody. All right. I think that's it. This is recorded, so if you want to share it or look back at it later or connect with Sandy on the getfullyfunded.com/homes for horses with dashes, that would be fabulous to learn more. And thanks so much, everybody. Have a nice day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.